Hey guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, Steven's going to be teaching you the theme song to Goosebumps. Now, if you're like me, a kid who grew up in the 90s, this is going to bring back some nostalgic feelings. You see, back then, we started out reading the books and then they made the TV show, and the books were equally awesome. Especially this song. It's got such a spooky feel and it's perfect for Halloween, which is when we're releasing this video lesson at. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the actual song, learning it and playing it. This is a toughie. It's going to be best suited for the advanced player. So if you're curious on how I define the beginner, intermediate, and advanced player and what each level should be working on, then check out this link right here. Now, as far as this lesson is concerned, Steven's going to be teaching you the entire song in this video. But if you want to get the tabs to print off and follow along with, that's going to be available at this link. Or you can go to the site, rockclass101.com, and do a search for Goosebumps. Now, also on that page will be the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. So this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch the tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish. Just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so I'm going to go ahead and hand it off to Steven to teach you how to play this, and then I'll see you at the end of the video.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this spooky Halloween lesson on the theme from Goosebumps. Now this is just a short little piece at just over a minute, but it is quite a tricky one. It was originally composed for piano, and to make it work on ukulele we are going to need ninja fingers in a few places. And in addition to that, there are some quite tricky rhythms in this piece as well. Now I'm mostly a technical player really, and my sense of rhythm and timing is probably one of my weakest areas. And once I'd finished arranging this one, I actually really struggled to play it properly in time. So before we get stuck into it, I just want to share a couple of tips that helped me along the way. Now, I never play to a metronome, and based on what I've just said about rhythm and timing being my weakest area, I probably should. I know that I should use a metronome, but I just never do. I don't know, I guess I'm just lazy. But anyway, for this one I thought, well, let's give it a go, it might help. I dusted off the old metronome and got it going, and it helped no end. It was just a saviour really. It really helped me get the rhythm and timing correct for this one, so I definitely recommend using a metronome if you have one. So the second tip is a pretty standard one, and it's just to start really slowly. And I know we always say that, but something I found particularly helpful with this piece was to go like really slowly, like painfully slow, way slower than I was capable of playing it even, and not to get the fingerings correct, although it will help with that, but more to really focus on the timing and the rhythm. So as I've said, it's really difficult to count this one, I think, in your head when you're playing at speed, but slowed right down, like really, really slowly, you're able to count those rhythms and really sort of get them into your head. So something you could do is even write them down. I mean, within this video, you'll have all the rhythm hits on one of these sides. You could write those down. If you had access to the tabs, and this is something I do, you could actually write the rhythm hits on the tab underneath each measure. And then go back and listen to the performance piece, slow it right down to like quarter speed, even slower if you can, as slow as you can get it really, and then count along as it's playing. And played slowly, you'll be able to do that. And you could do it playing along once you've learnt it, but it even works without the uke. Even just listening to it and counting those rhythms slowly will help just really embed that rhythm into your brain. So you might have a much better sense of rhythm and timing than I do, and you might have no issues with the rhythm of this piece at all, and if that's the case, then that's great. But if you're more like me, then hopefully these couple of tips will just help get you started in the right way. But as always, I'll go through a few more hints and tips as we go through the video. So grab yourself one of these things, get your ninja fingers warmed up, and let's get into this. This piece is in 4/4 time, so we have our 4 quarter notes to the bar. We're in the key of D minor, and the tempo we're aiming for is around about 90 BPM. Now the tempo of the original was around 104, but I've dropped it down to 90 on purpose, really just to give us all a bit of a fighting chance with this one, because like I say, it is quite tricky. But if you master this piece and you want to try playing it faster, then of course, by all means do so. But conversely, you know, if 90 is just that little bit too quick for you and you're struggling to get to that tempo, then just play it at whatever speed, tempo you're capable of, whatever you're comfortable with. It doesn't matter, I think it's always better to play a little bit slower and play well than try and play faster than we can and play badly, if that makes sense. So let's start with the first 3 measures of this piece. We'll look at them together because we just kind of have this repeating pattern of 6 16th notes. So we'll look at how that works and how that then fills these first 3 measures. So for all 3 measures, the rhythm's the same. We're just playing all 16th notes across these measures. So we're playing 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a. So it's quite quick little sections, quite a lot going on. Now, I'm going to teach this in a slightly different way in places to give you the option, because I think with some of these sections and the fingering of some of these sections, it makes more sense to think of them as repeating patterns than think of how many notes are in the measure, and that hopefully will make more sense when we get into it. If you want to just work measure by measure, that's fine, but I think you'll find that some of the fingering gets confusing when you do that. So the way I like to think of the first 3 measures, and this is just me, if this works for you, go with it. If you just want to keep it as distinct measures, that's fine, but the way I like to do this is we have this basically repeating pattern of 6 notes. So I think of that pattern, that's my start and my end point for my fingering, and then I'm going to be repeating that 8 times across these 3 measures. So let's have a look at how that works in practice. So to begin with, we want to be holding this crazy shape here, and it's worth just getting your fingers in position before you start playing this piece, because this is quite a hard shape to hold. We don't come back to this shape at any point in the piece, so you've never got to find that shape under pressure. So spend some time getting your fingers where they need to be before you get ready to play the whole piece. So what we want is our index finger on the A string at the 8th fret. We're going to have our 3rd finger on the E string at the 10th fret, then our 2nd finger's looped over onto the G string at the 9th, and the C string's not involved in this, so if that was catching the C string and muting it, it wouldn't really matter. We don't need the C string at all. Okay, so that's our starting point. We have our 3 fingers on there. We've got our pinky ready to go there, because this is going to do some quite complex hammer on and pull off bits as part of this sequence. So if we look at this sequence of 6 notes, and how this is played, it should then make sense, the idea of just repeating that sequence 8 times rather than thinking of it as how many notes are in each measure. So let's have a look at it. So what we're going to do on beat 1, we're going to play the G string. No, we're not. We're going to play the E string at the 10th, my apologies. So beat 1, we're playing the E string at the 10th. And remember, this is all just 16th notes, so we won't worry too much about the rhythm now, because we know we're just playing this constant 16th note rhythm. So after that, we play the G string, and then we go to the A string. So we've played those kind of 3 ascending notes. And then after that, we're going to hammer on. So we've played the A string, but then the next note we achieve with hammer on with the little finger, it's going to hammer on to the 12th, and then it's going to pull off back to the 8th. So we basically have this hammer on, pull off with the pinky. Okay, so if we'll do the 6th note as well, then we've completed the whole sequence. So once we've done that pull off back to the 8th, we then just go back and play that G string at the 9th with the thumb. And that's our kind of pattern of 6 notes, which then just repeats a number of times. So if we look at it again, we would have there's our 6 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, now that hammer on is quite important to get it clean so we hear the notes, but also rhythmically to kind of keep it kind of the same time as everything else. Sometimes when you hammer on, it's difficult to get the timing right. So practice it slowly. And I think you'll find, like I say there, if you think of it as a distinct separate pattern of 6 notes and then just repeat that, it makes it much easier to keep the fingering and the rhythm going than thinking of it like as each measure. Because if we think about measure 1, we have and then we stop there. But that's like halfway through one of these patterns. So if measure 2, we then think, right, what are we doing? we start with a pull off. And then straight away, you've lost that kind of pattern and your fingers get all confused. Mine do anyway. So I think 6 notes, repeat that pattern 8 times in total, and that is the first 3 measures. And then again. And then again. And just do that 8 times in total. And again, start slowly, as always, not just from a rhythmic point of view, like I mentioned in the intro, but actually for the benefit of the fingering and getting the fingering smooth and flowing and getting it working. Because this is something you want to build the speed up eventually. You know, by the time you get to having practiced this and master it, it should sound more like. And that will come, but starting really slowly to begin with. And that will be, you'll get there in the end with that. It sounds quite tricky when you listen to it, but once you've mastered that little pattern of 6 notes and you get the rhythm flowing nicely, you'll be there in no time with that one. So let's maybe have a go at playing those first 3 measures together. We'll go slowly, but we'll play that repeating pattern of 6 notes 8 times. We'll play the full 3 measures, but it's just the same thing repeating. So let's have a go with that really slowly now. 3E and 4E and So we'll have a look now at measures 4 and 5 together. So measure 4, we're still just carrying on this intro. So what we've been playing in measures 1, 2 and 3, this repeating pattern, we're still doing that. But the reason I've kept this one separate is because it changes slightly at the end, and then we can look at how that then progresses into measure 5. So for most of measure 4, just the same as the first 3 measures, but we're not going to play kind of the last few notes in it. So the rhythm we're going for is 1E and 2E and 3E and 4. So we're stopping on 4 and we're not playing that last E and, if that makes sense. Okay, so we're starting from the same point here. By the time we got to the end of measure 3, we then come back in measure 4, starting at the beginning of one of these repeating patterns. So it's quite nice in that sense. So we have our, and then we go again. And then we just play the first note of the next one, because that's beat 4, and we let that just ring over beat 4. Now in the original that does carry on, that repeating pattern, but I've left it there to give us time just to bring our hand down here to play this D minor chord, because this is quite a tricky shape to do as well. If we complete that 6-note pattern and then immediately have to get down here, it's just not going to work. So we have that little pause there on beat 4. I don't think it detracts too much from the piece. I think it's worth doing in order to get that clean movement then into measure 5. Okay, so measure 5 then, we are on this D minor chord, but it isn't just a nice straightforward one like that, because we need to be up with our pinky on the A string at the 5th as well. So I think it's worth practicing it this way, even if you're not very comfortable with it at first. But there's another way of playing the D minor where we use the second finger to do this kind of bendy finger hinge bar thing, whereas the sort of the pad of this finger frets the G string and the C string at the 2nd, but then curls up out the way so that it's not muting the E string, and the index finger takes that E string at the 1st fret, and we have our D minor chord. It's the same as playing it like that. It's all the same notes involved, but by doing it that way, it just allows us to stretch this finger up a little bit more, makes it more comfortable for playing that A string at the 5th. And I think as well it helps here to really have the elbow out. When I play this, you can see the elbow there moves right round in order to sort of let that finger stretch out. If you're here and your elbow's tucked in, it can be difficult then to stretch that finger up there. So think about whole body position when we're doing this. Bring the elbow out, and that should allow you then to stretch that finger up to there. Okay, so when we hit measure 5, we're going to play here 1 and 2 and 3 and. So we're playing kind of 8th notes there to begin with, but then we stop on the and after the 3rd beat. So what we're going to do on beat 1, we're just playing this C string at the 2nd fret, single note. So beat 1 is just that. So what you could do after you've played this, yeah, so just to make things a little bit easier and not put fingers on that we don't need, when we hit measure 5, beat 1, don't worry about trying to get the whole D minor shape on with your pinky up there ready to go for beat 1. Because beat 1, all we need to do is play that C string at the 2nd. So bring this finger down, put the bar on, this kind of bendy bar, just on the bottom 2 strings, play that note as you then put the rest of the shape on. So as you're playing that C string at the 2nd, the first finger comes onto the E string at the 1st, the pinky goes onto the A string at the 5th, then on the and after beat 1, just when you need them, you've then got that whole shape on ready to go. If you come out of measure 4 and then try and get this whole thing on, you're probably not going to have it on in time to play that first note, and then rhythmically will be off, which we don't want. So just think about putting the fingers on that we need as we need them, put that on, play it as you're playing it, add those on, then the and after beat 1, we're playing the shape, but we're not playing the C string, we're playing the A string, the E string, and the G string, so probably use 2 fingers together, thumb on the G, then the and after beat 1, we're playing those 3 notes together. Then on beat 2 we play them again, just as we did then, and then the and after beat 2 we're going to drop the A string down to the 3rd, keeping the D minor on, but dropping it down. You could slide the pinky down, or you could use the 3rd finger there, whatever's more comfortable for you, you'll get the same effect, so just do whatever your hand allows you to do. So the and after beat 2, we play those notes, and then on beat 3 we play them once again, and then the and after beat 3 we then just drop down the A string to the 2nd fret, and that's the end after beat 3. What I like to do here rhythmically, it kind of helps on beat 4 because it feels like there should be something on beat 4. There isn't any notes, but you could just do a little kind of body tap, string tap on beat 4 just to kind of complete that in a way, and it helps rhythmically as well. Little tap there on beat 4. So you'd have tap, and that's on beat 4. And then nothing else for that measure, and that tap on beat 4 just completes it. We ring out for that last note. So measures 4 and 5 together, we would have okay, so let's have a go at playing those 2 measures now together. 3E and 4E and So let's have a look at the next 3 measures together now. We'll look at measure 6, 7 and 8, and they should sound something like this. Okay, so let's have a look how we achieve that. So measure 6, we have this kind of pause which continues from the end of measure 5. In measure 5, we finished playing on the and after beat 3, and then we did a tap on beat 4. So if we think of that tap on beat 4 as our last thing we've done, we have that kind of pause over the last beat of measure 5. Then into measure 6, we just rest over beat 1. But then the and after beat 1, we come straight in with this, I suppose, kind of 16th note triplet over the and after beat 1. And then on beat 2, we're finishing on this open A string. So a really tricky little bit rhythmically, but maybe just think of it as, I don't know, one of the kind of if you can sing it, you can play it type feels to it, rather than trying to count that 16th note triplet, because that'd be really difficult to do. What we're essentially after is this quite quick played sequence of notes. So I suppose if you think about it, you're starting it on the and after beat 1, and you're finishing it on beat 2. That's where we want to be. So to achieve that, what we're going to do, if you have your index finger on the A string at the 5th fret, and then the pinky on the 8th fret on the A string, and we put that finger on so it's ready to receive the pull off, because the first thing we're going to do is going to play that note at the 8th, then pull it off onto the 5th. So as we hit it, pull off, then the second finger takes the E string at the 6th, and then you can just take the index finger off and leave that ring in, or you could take everything off, whatever you prefer, and then just play the A string open on beat 2 there. I think if you can leave that E string at the 6th on, you get that kind of eerie kind of ringing sound, which, you know, is totally appropriate for this tune because it is a kind of, you know, a spooky tune. So we have that kind of, well, A sharp with an A basically, which don't sound nice together, but they do sound kind of creepy, which is the whole point. So if you can let it ring, that'd be ideal. Okay, and then we've played that on beat 2, so the open A was beat 2. We then let that ring, we don't play on beat 3. Then we don't play on beat 4, but then the and after beat 4, we come in with these 2 16th notes for the end of this measure. So after beat 4, we're playing on that and a. And what we're going to do is play another little pull off. So the C string at the 3rd fret with the 3rd finger, have the index finger on the 1st fret behind, ready to receive that pull off. Okay, so the and after beat 4, we play, and then straight after 16th note, we play on the a, so and a, and we're doing a pull off onto the 1st. Okay, so not much going on in that measure, not a lot to do, but this is one of those measures where rhythmically it's quite tricky. So having gone over that quite a lot, like I said in the intro, maybe slowing it down and listening to it, counting it, using a click beat, metronome, whatever helps here, it's really worth doing there because those pauses can be quite difficult to get rhythmically. Okay, so all we're really playing is, that's the whole measure, but rhythmically it's worth spending a bit of time. So what that then does, those last 2 notes of measure 6, they lead into measure 7, where we go up to the C string at the 2nd fret. So essentially we're playing, that's that little sequence of 3 notes there. So what we'll do, rather than actually just put the 2nd finger on like that, we're going to be going back to the D minor shape like we played in measure 5. So once we've done our pull off at the end of measure 6, straight into measure 7, and we're playing the rhythm here, 1 and 2 and 3 and then we're playing the last 16th note of this measure as well, but we'll get to that in a moment. So it's very similar to measure 5, but with an extra note at the end there, which we'll look at momentarily. So what we'll do is, rather than put the finger on, we'll put the little 2nd finger bar thing on like we had in measure 5, so it's ready to go. So essentially what we have is, and we just hammer it on there, we don't pick it. So at the end of measure 6, when we play that C string at the 3rd, the next 2 notes are just achieved by pull-offs and hammer-ons. Okay, we just pick once. But it's important that we put that bendy finger bar on, because then all we can do then is move this finger here, this index finger which is playing the C string at the 1st, if we just move that to the E string then, we've pretty much got our shape ready to go. We can then put the pinky on and we're ready for the rest of this measure, measure 7. And we've seen this before, so we're just playing our tap on beat 4. But then quite quickly after that, on the last 16th note, so we don't play, we tap on beat 4, let it ring over the and after beat 4, but then the a, like and a, that last 16th note, we're then going to this C string at the 2nd. So we are already holding that with this D minor shape, but I would actually take that off and just put it onto the C string at the 2nd. So we're holding that shape there, E string at the 1st, C string at the 2nd. Because then what we're going to do is this little sequence. Okay, so that starts on the last 16th note of measure 7, and then leads into measure 8, but a little bit like the intro, I think it makes more sense to think of this as a repeating pattern of notes, because it'll help with the fingering, and then sort of work out the timing and rhythm after you've learnt the sequence of notes. So what we essentially have here, if we start with that note at the end of measure 8, we have this sequence of 6 notes again. That's the sequence we want to learn, and then we just repeat that. Okay, and then we play it kind of once more, but not through to completion. The final time we play it in measure 8, we just play and stop there. So what is that little sequence of 6 notes? We have this shape that we're holding, so we play the C string, then we hammer onto the 3rd fret, but then pull off back to the 2nd fret, then play the E string at the 1st, then C string 2nd, and then use that 3rd finger now to play E string at the 2nd. And those are all 16th notes. And again, start slowly. That's not too difficult a thing to do slowly. But then when you're able to speed up and then repeat it, it can get a bit finger twisty. So it's worth practicing that quite slowly and build it up. So essentially we play this pattern twice. And then the first 4 notes of the 3rd time round. And stop there. Okay, so we're going to finish there for measure 8 on the and after beat 4. That last kind of 8th note, we just rest, let that ring out, ready to move into measure 9. So let's have a go now at playing measure 6, 7 and 8 through together. 3E and 4E and So on to measures 9 and 10 now. What these should sound like is something like this. Okay, so how are we doing that? So again, rhythmically, measure 9 is quite tricky. If we think about the rhythm, we're playing 1E and 3E, 4E and that sounds crazy. So the way I like to think about this, I suppose, is looking at the music there. We've got these groups of 4 16th notes. And I suppose the way to think about it that I think helps is think about the pauses rather than the rhythm. So basically between these 3 sets of 4 16th notes, we have just like a kind of 8th note rest between them. So there's a pause for half a beat is another way to think about it. So half a beat pause, half a beat pause, and that takes us through that measure. So again, playing with a metronome there or click beat really helps get that right. So let's have a look at the fingering. What are we doing? So we're still holding this shape. So we've played this little bit in measure 8, which is very much based on these 2 fingers here, C string 2nd, E string 1st. So we keep that held for measure 9. And we play the C string at the 2nd. Then we take that 1st finger off to open up the E string to play that. But then we hammer on back to the 1st and then play the open A string. So the first sequence of 4 notes. Okay, pause for half a beat or an 8th note, and then we play that E string at the 1st again. Then the G string open. Then we want to put our pinky on the E string at the 4th. And we can take these off as we do that. The 1st and 2nd fingers that have been holding that shape for a while now, they can come off. And then we play the A string at the 3rd, probably with the 3rd finger there. So that one there was... Okay, then again, pause for half a beat. And then we complete that measure with our last set of 4 notes, which is... Okay, I think that finger in there was wrong. Let's just play that again. Yeah, so from here, when we've played that middle section of 4 notes, probably keep those 2 on. I don't think I showed that a moment ago when I played this, so keep those 2 on for that. And then what we're going to do is play on beat 4, E string at the 4th, and then take this finger off as you do it. Bring both these over, because we're going to do a little hammer on now. So G string at the 3rd, and then hammer up to the 4th fret with that 2nd finger, and then play A string at the 6th to finish off that measure. So that last little bit there was... Okay, so I'll play those sequences again quite slowly. Okay. That's what we're going for. So then into measure 10, we now just pause. We're just letting that ring over beats 1 and beat 2. And then we come in on the and after beat 2, where we're playing this shape here. So 2 kind of nasty notes again. Already sound quite kind of dissonant there, quite spooky, but we're going to add a harmonic as well, just to make it even more spooky if you like. So the harmonic, we're going to play this G string at the 7th, we pick that note with the thumb, but then the A string at the 6th, which we're holding here, we're actually going to do an artificial harmonic there on the, what would it be, the 18th fret. Okay, so the way to do that, 18, that's my last fret. So put your index finger just over that fret, like you were playing a normal harmonic, just rest the finger on the string right over the 18th. And then the way I'm doing this is just using the 3rd finger here to actually pick that string and then doing the harmonic. But at the same time, playing that G string at the 7th as well, to get that really creepy kind of sound going on there. So that's the and after beat 2, then we just let that ring over beat 3 and beat 4, and then we come in again for the last 2 16th notes, where we're going to go into this sequence once again like we've seen before. Okay, but in terms of measure 10, all we're doing to begin with at the end of measure 10, those last 2 16th notes, we're playing just that pull off 3 to 1 on the C string. Okay, so let's have a go at playing 9 and 10 through together now. 3 E and 4 E and So on to measures 11 and 12 now. They should sound like this. Okay, so how are we doing that? So measure 11, we've seen before, most of measure 11 is very similar to measure 7 and measure 5 as well. So we have this D minor shape, so we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and tap on beat 4. And then what we're going to do is we're going to play the C string at the 2nd on the and after beat 4. So a little difference there to the other measures that were similar, just the end of the measure there, we're playing on the and after beat 4. So what we'd have is 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, then straight into measure 12 on beat 1, we're playing the A string open with the E string at the 4th. And then we're letting that ring for most of this measure now. So we play that on beat 1, but then we're just letting that ring over beat 2 and 3 and 4. And then the last 2 16th notes, so the and after beat 4, and then the a, like and a, we're playing those again. Seen them before. C string 3rd, pulling off onto 1st. And again into 13, that'll lead back to that sequence again. Okay, so 11 and 12. So let's have a go at playing those 2 measures through together now. 3 E and 4 E and So measures 13 and 14 we've seen before, they're just repeats. They're basically the same as measures 7 and 8. We have this. those again. On to measures 15 and 16 now. We have a bit of a break from some of these crazy complex rhythms that we've been learning, and rhythmically now these are a little bit more simple. So measure 15 and 16 together, we would hear okay, and then those two measures 15 and 16, they just repeat again, so 17 and 18, nice and simple, because it's just playing those two again. So if we look at measure 15, we have so all eighth notes, nice constant 8-note rhythm here, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So the way we'll do it, we'll have the G string open on beat 1, then we'll go to the E string at the 4th with the pinky, then we'll come down to the E string at the 1st with the first finger, so take the pinky off, and then we'll play the G string open again, then C string at the 3rd with the 3rd finger, E string first again, that's still on from before, just leave that first finger on. And then we'll drop C string to the 2nd using the 2nd finger, 3rd finger comes off. And then back up to the 3rd fret on the C string to complete that measure. Okay, so then into measure 16 now, what we'll do is we'll keep this 2nd finger on the C string at the 2nd fret. These two fingers can come off. Then the index finger here comes over onto the G string at the 1st, and then beat 1 for measure 16. In a similar rhythm here, we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, but we're playing quarter note on beat 4. We're not playing that final 8th note like we did in the previous measure. So what we'll have is beat 1, those two notes together, C string 2nd, G string 1st, then hammer up to the C string 3rd fret, then take that finger off to open up the C string open, then back to the 2nd fret on the C string, then G string 3rd fret with the 3rd finger, A string 3rd fret with the pinky, and then G string 1st fret with the 1st finger, and we finish at that point there with those two fingers on. Okay, so that measure again. Play it a bit slower. Okay, so 15 and 16 again. And then again, they just repeat it again for measures 17 and 18. So let's have a go at looking at those two measures played through together now. 3E and 4E and So we'll have a look now at three measures. We'll look at 19 and then 20 and 21, because 20 and 21 kind of continue from each other in a similar way to how the intro does, with a repeating pattern of notes. So measure 19, first of all, we're going for... Try that again. That's a bit better. So the rhythm here, we're doing mostly 16th notes again. We're playing 1E and 2E and 3E and. Okay, so rhythmically not too bad compared to some of the other bits, but still a little bit tricky. So again, maybe think about the pauses and how long they're lasting for, might help you out. Certainly playing with a click beat, metronome, all the same again, it's going to help you here. So what have we got? So we're starting with the E string at the 4th fret. We'll use a second finger for that, but have the first finger on behind at the 3rd, because the first part is a pull off. So let's look at these first three notes together. 4 down to 3 on the E string, and then C string 5th. So that's our first little sequence of three notes, 1E and. Then on 2E and, we're going to start from where we finished off just then. So we're going to play the C string at the 5th, but then we're going to hammer, or sorry, pull off onto the C string at the 3rd. So this first finger, have it on the C string at the 3rd behind, ready to receive that pull off. And then just move that finger down to the 2nd fret to complete that sequence of three notes. Okay, and then the final sequence of three notes on 3E and, we're going to have same starting point there, C string at the second, pull off onto the C string open, and then A string second to finish off. And again, go slowly to begin with. And then build up speed. Okay, then on to measures 20 and 21. These are similar in a way to the intro. In fact, I think they're the same notes as the intro, but just played lower down the neck. And we're going to go for the same approach where we think of it as this repeating pattern of 6 notes. Rhythmically, it's similar to the intro. We're playing all these 16th notes, so 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and a, but we'll think about it as the sequence of 6 notes repeated a certain number of times. So if we look at the 2 measures together, they should sound like this. Okay, so let's start with our sequence of 6 notes, and then we'll work out how many times we have to play that to complete these 2 measures. So we're going to start on the C string at the 2nd fret. We'll pick that with the thumb. We're then going to hammer up to the 4th fret on the C string. Use the 3rd finger for that. Then we'll use the thumb again to pick the C string at the 5th fret. We'll add the pinky on to play that 5th fret. And then we're going to play the A string open, but we'll play it with the 3rd finger. Then work down to the E string open, 2nd finger or middle finger. And then back to this C string at the 5th fret, which we should still be holding here and with our pinky. And then we'll pick that with the index. Okay, so the first 3 notes are on the C string with the thumb. And then the next 3 notes just working down the strings using the 3rd finger, the middle finger, and then the index finger. Okay, I would use that finger in there, using the thumb to begin with, and then working down with the fingers, because it'll help build the speed up that you need for this section. It's a tricky little section from a finger point of view. Rhythmically not too bad because it's just this constant 16th note rhythm, but it's quite tricky on the finger. So if you use that finger and thumb to begin with, and then fingers working down, it should help build the speed up. So that's our sequence. So how many times are we playing it? We're playing it once, twice, 3, 4 times. And then the 5th time we play it, we just miss out that final note. We don't come back down to the C string at the 5th. That's the only bit we don't play. So 4 times in total, 5 times really, but minus that very last note on the 5th time. Okay, and then that is measures 20 and 21. So if we put them all together, 19, 20 and 21, we would have so let's have a go at playing those 3 measures through together now. 3 E and 4 E and So measures 22 and 23 we've seen before. These are just repeats, and they're basically the same as measures 7 and 8. Okay, so we'll not go over those again because they're exactly the same. But then on to measures 24, 25 and then 26, the last 3 measures of the piece. So we'll look at all 3 of these together now. For measure 24, we have, again, this kind of constant 16th note rhythm, but we finish on, actually we just miss out the very last 16th note. So we finish on an 8th note at the end of this measure 24. So we have 1 E and a, 2 E and a, 3 E and a, 4 E and, but then miss out that last A. So what we have for that is, let me double check, yep. Yeah, there. So this carries on from measure 23. Although we're not looking at 23, I'll just play 23 into 24 so you can hear how they would sound together. We would have... So that's how they sound together, but we'll just look at 24. So what are we doing there? So I'd say all 16th notes until the very end. We play an 8th note on the last note there. So we're playing the 6th fret on the C string down to the 5th fret on the C string with a pull off. And this shape, actually, we're just sliding it up from the previous measure. Measure 23 was based around this shape. And the 3rd finger dances around and does some funky things, but these 2 fingers stay there the whole time. When we get into measure 24, we're just using those same 2 fingers, so we just move them up to the 4th and 5th frets. That's our starting point. But then we add the C string at the 6th with our 3rd finger to start us off on 24. So pick that, hammer onto 5th or pull off onto 5th, then play E string at the 4th, and then back to C string at the 5th, and then open A string, that's on beat 2. So we've got, for the first part of this measure, then we're going to do 5, hammer on to 6, pull back off to 5, and then E string 4th, C string 5th, A string open again, and then that same hammer on, pull off, E string 4th to finish off. Okay, so a little bit of repetition in this one as well. So that measure again, we'd have okay, and then we'll let that ring for the rest of that measure there. So the last note there is the 8th note, rings out for the rest of measure 24. Then into measure 25, we're playing 1 E and 2 E and. So what we have there is, and I'll play that less horribly. That was better. Okay, so the first bit, 1 E and, is A string 6th, pull off onto 5. So use 2nd and 1st fingers for that. Then E string 8th, and then let that pause for a bit. Then 2 E and is E string 8th, pull off onto 6th, use the 2nd finger, and then we'll do E string at the 5th to finish off there. Then we've got a bit of a pause. We finished on the and after beat 2 there, but then nothing else for this measure. Let that ring over beat 3, let it ring over beat 4. And then into measure 26, the final one, it's our D minor shape we've seen before. We're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And we do our... So very similar to before, we've always played a tap on beat 4 to kind of keep that going, that rhythm going. That's what we've been doing. But actually on this final measure of the piece, to finish it off, rather than a tap on beat 4, we actually just play that C string at the 2nd, and we play that note on beat 4. Okay, so measures 24, 25 and 26 would sound like this. Okay, so let's have a go at playing those 3 measures through together now. 3 E and 4 E and
Alright guys, so this week's ukulele lesson was super fun. It's like a flashback to my childhood coming of age years, and I just gotta say, it's such a cool sounding song too. It's perfect for Halloween. Now, I do want to give you a friendly reminder that if you wanted to get the tabs to print off, keep for your records, that was available at this link, or you can go to the site rockclass101.com and do a search for Goosebumps. Now also on that page was the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight sections to loop them, you can slow it down to any speed, all that fun jazz. So guys, again, I hope you enjoyed this and have a great Halloween. Take care.